guys? Ryan Fowler with the Inner Game Group. We got a good one today here with Tim Costello, Jordan Kurtz. Yesterday, I touched on the topic of normal for our society is not healthy. And I wanted the Inner Game Group to weigh in on that, Jordan and Tim. Gary's not here. His work situation's changed, but hopefully we can have him on from time to time still. But we have a really good clip. We're going to talk about this. This is a very important topic for our society because Western society is screwed up. You know, I saw this statistic and I've mentioned it before. There's this statistic out there and it's a reputable, it's some sort of psychological, or it's a college association of colleges, universities. They did a study. They found out 40% of college students are so depressed it is difficult to function, and 60% of college students at some point during the year are crippled by anxiety, just overwhelming anxiety. So that's not normal. What the hell is going on? We're going to dive into that today, along with all the other messed up stuff we see in our society. So we're going to dive into that. But first, Tim, I'm Ryan, intermasculine.com, free ebook. Talk about that in a sec. But Tim and Jordan, introduce yourselves.
Yep, I'm Tim with clearthattrauma.com. I help people eliminate limiting beliefs, anxiety, depression, etc., to help them function better. Exactly what we're going to talk about today. And let me say, Ryan, ever since we've come up with that theme song that you've got for the intro there, every time it comes on, I want to start beatboxing, and I don't even know how.
Well, you practice, learn, and grow, Tim.
That's it.
All right, Jordan.
I agree. I really like the theme song. I've actually, Ryan, I think
like Korean or something, but it just sounds cool. I went with
one of the videos you sent me, I think, had like a longer version of it. I think
it is a long song.
I realized that, like, not just the sting at the beginning, so I really like it. Well, anyway, I'm Jordan Kurtz. Do me a favor, if you like what the content, go show me some love. Follow me on Twitter at jkurtzhypnosis. I'm trying to give a lot of value, trying to build that up and introduce to the world these hypnosis, these hypnotherapy, these inner game concepts so that we can spread the message. So give me a follow. Really appreciate it.
All right. So P-Dubs, welcome to the show. P-Dubs in the audience. So Spark55, thanks for tuning in, guys. I see your comments. And so we have yet another Gabor Mate clip today. We look at all sorts of stuff. We've been on a bit of a Gabor Mate streak recently, but it's just because he's so dialed in and he understands things holistically. He is actually one of the world's leading, he's a medical doctor, one of the world's leading experts on how psychological trauma leads to disease in the body as well as addiction, a few other things like that. He's done palliative care, which is for end of life people, terminally ill, etc. And he just has profound insights that are supported by just I don't know, he's 50 years in the medical community as a doctor. I mean, it's a long time. He's like 80 or something.
He is 80.
Yeah. So just a wealth of wisdom from this guy. And he has been, all over the world, and he's seen other cultures. And I was talking about this yesterday. There are non-Western, I'm not saying all non-Western cultures, but there are, because there's some that are pretty messed up. Like Russia is not non-Western. There's a lot of psychological damage in Russia, a lot. And I've been to Ukraine a couple times, and that's kind of it's kind of a mix there. There's good and bad, but there are non-Western cultures where people are relatively happy, where people, they are not nearly as materially or financially successful as the United States, not even close. They're poor by our standards, and yet they're happy. They go around with smiles on their face. They're just friendly people. Philippines and Mexico. I honestly, I think Philippines is even friendlier than Mexico. And they have overall they have stable families. There's always going to be no society is perfect. I'm not trying to paint a picture that any society is a utopia. Every society has struggles, but different societies have different struggles. And there are societies and cultures where communities are relatively tight knit and where people love and support each other. So Gabor Mate and those societies, the people are just generally way happier. They don't have broken families like we do. Again, I'm not saying these societies are perfect. You can have alcoholism or whatever, physical violence, domestic violence in these societies, but the amount of overall emotional health is way freaking higher than Western culture, especially the United States. So Dr. Gabor Mate is going to talk about that today. We're going to comment on it. The theme for today is normal is not healthy. Just because it's normal for our society doesn't mean it's healthy and doesn't mean it is how we are biologically wired. There are a lot of gurus that think, oh, we're just biologically wired this way. This is women, this is men. And it's like, well, that's the norm for our society, but not all of that is biological wiring. One of the reasons for depression and anxiety in our society is we're taught to reject parts of who we really are. So we'll get into that. Before we get into that, just real quick, innermasculine.com free-ebook. Innermasculine.com free-ebook. Understand how your subconscious mind works and why it holds us back. It's a 1-hour read. It will give you all the fundamentals, no fat, and then you'll understand, no fluff. You'll understand, oh, geez, this is why I'm anxious. Oh, geez, this is why I procrastinate. You'll know at a fundamental level. And that's the first key to moving forward. Also, I've been talking with some of my coaches, etc., and we formed a new community on school.com. It's a free community. You'll be hearing more about it probably within a week or so. And I am going to put free self-hypnosis content on that community where plus training. Now, there's stuff I do that I charge for, but this is going to be stuff you can use for free and actually fix yourself or actually, upgrade your internal world, and it won't cost you a dime. So that is coming soon. Keep your eyes open for that. And do you guys have anything to say about this clip or anything else before we dive in, or do you just want to dive in, Tim or Jordan?
I had a thought that I seem to notice that the more I want to know what you guys think, that if the more stable a society generally encourages childhood to be, the more stable the society tends to be, because if all of our beliefs in the subconscious are being formed in childhood, and you have a society that's geared towards, 2-parent families and stable homes and the family unit to raise children, that the society will overall be more stable and prosperous, because when you protect the growth of the subconscious above all, then your society is more likely to reap the rewards. So I think
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
There's a psychological cancer in Western culture, especially the United States.
So I want to pick
all
up
this woke stuff is evidence of that, but it's more than that,
I want to pick up on what Ryan commented on about normal. And of course, Dr. Mate has a book called The Myth of Normal. I'm about halfway through it. It's not telling me anything new that I didn't know before, but it is putting it in a way that's organized well and why it's bad. So when we say normal, I don't think that anything is normal. In fact, if you listen to Dave Ramsey, the financial guru on the radio, he will tell you that normal is in debt and broke, living paycheck to paycheck. That would be
there's normal, but that doesn't mean
norm,
it's healthy.
right? Now, just because, just like Ryan said, just because there's a societal norm doesn't mean that's normal for the individual. It's an aggregate of normal. They sort of looked at everybody and said, this is about the middle of where everybody is, the medium, the median, and the mode. So then the question would be, what is normal? And I have never actually found normal. I think sometimes we do things usually, You know, we'll do things whenever something happens. We'll react in a certain way that for us. And as we're going to find out in this clip, there's a couple of things that I triggered the other guys earlier before we started to sort of pick up on is we're talking about this Western society and the things that exist in the Western society have existed since the beginning of time. You will always have somebody in the society who's wealthier than somebody else. And you will have everybody else that's just working along. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, we covered a clip by that fellow that was in the war. And he's got that messed up arm, jumped on a bomb or something like that.
Oh, the Delta Force operator.
Yeah, Tyler, I think his name was. Tyler in the Sean Ryan show. And he made a mention about how there's a fellow who is totally put together, like Jordan was saying, subconsciously, solid, gets what he wants, gets what he needs, is happy, spends time with the family, but he doesn't have billions, right? That would be the opposite of what Western society would tell you now is the normal that you need to achieve. And quite frankly, it used to laugh, normal was shopping at Kmart years ago. If you wanted to be normal, you shopped at Kmart, not Saks Fifth Avenue and Neiman Marcus and all that kind of stuff, right? So we're going to get into some of that, and we'll talk about the cycles of Western society and the prevalence now in our society that has existed from the beginning of time.
Yeah, our society idolizes and aspires to things that actually more often than not facilitate sickness, emotional.
And with the media is rampant now. So we look at 5% of America and we think that's everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. It's normal for the United States, but it's not normal for other parts of the world. I mean, how many people are in Africa? That is totally a different culture. And they have problems. I'm not saying they don't, but if you travel around the world and you really get into different cultures, there are just so many different ways at looking at things. So
I mean, I think if you look at the breakdown of populations, America has 330 odd million people.
Yeah, it's 5%.
We're number 3 in the world. The number 2 and number 1 each have 4 times what the U.S. has.
Yeah,
so
India and China.
2.8 billion people that are in different societies that are still functioning, still got issues, whatever. But we're just a small piece of the pie in the world. We're just the richest.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll add one last thing. I'm gonna throw out some speculation here. I also know from some psychology background I have that we have kind of a tendency, like a change adversity built into us. Like our brains like to be able to find patterns so that it's beneficial to our survival to find patterns in things so that we don't have to reprocess everything about our world. And so it's helpful for our brain to come up with norms or things that are regular, even if they're unhealthy, so we can focus on processing other inputs that might be more threatening. So I think we create the norms that we live inside of because that's the way our brains are built. And even if these norms are unhealthy, it's still beneficial for our brain to create something that's normal or regular just for the sake of our survival. Of course, if we're aware of that, not all of those are healthy. And so, it's up to us to identify the difference.
True.
Sure. All right. So let's dive into this clip here. Gabor Mate, the myth, the legend. Here we go.
One of the talks that I give is entitled The Myth of Normal, which is to say that we think that there are people who are normal over here. And then there's the pathological ones who have depression or anxiety or addiction or schizophrenia or bipolar disorder or any number of other ADHD or any number of other conditions. What I see is a continuum, that we're all on a continuum. These traits, to one degree or another, are present in almost everybody. And it's a mythology to think that there's the normal and then there's the abnormal. Well, according to the research, the best place to be a schizophrenic in the world is not North America with all its pharmacopoeia. It's actually a village in Africa or India where there's acceptance, where people make room for your differentness, where connection is not broken but is maintained, where you're not excluded and ostracized, but where you're welcomed, and when there's room for you to act out whatever you need to act out.
Okay, real quick, I want to highlight those the beginning. He said, according to the research. What he's telling you is backed up by scientific data. He's a scientist, so this is not just woohoo. This is what the science has found. He's not just giving his personal opinion here. We'll keep going.
Or to express whatever you need to express. And the whole community might even sing with you or chant with you or hold ceremony with you. And maybe find some meaning in your quote unquote craziness. So it's contextual and it's cultural. So disease is not an isolated phenomenon of an individual. It's a culturally manufactured or culturally constructed paradigm.
Culturally constructed. That's worth commenting on. I'm sure we'll come back to that.
So a society that cuts us off from our spirituality, that cuts us off from society by idealizing individualism and by destroying social contexts, which our society does, which ignores our emotional needs, is going to be a society that generates pathology. And I think that has to do with the very nature of the economic system that says that what matters is not who you are, but how you are valued by others. And our society values people for material. It's a materialistic society, which specifically means that what we value is not who people are, but what they produce or what they consume. And the people that neither consume nor produce, they're ostracized, they're shunted aside, and they're totally devalued. Hence the rejection of old people. They no longer produce, and they're not rich enough to consume a lot either. So the very nature of this materialistic society dictates or generates and promotes that separation from ourselves. There is an intelligence, and I'm not speaking about a operative creature up there or out there somewhere doing things and deciding things, but there's an intelligence in nature and creation that if we ignore, we create suffering for ourselves and other people. And aligning with that intelligence and aligning with that connection is really what, whether we do so consciously or whether we do so because we're called to do that in ways that manifest compassion and connection and love. That's the way we're meant to be. And so
he's talking about getting back to who we really are as human beings, which is distorted.
What he said key there was, if we ignore what we create, we get what we get.
Yeah. And, a big thing, something I'm really big on is, number one, you are enough just as you are. You have massive value just for who you are. It solves so many issues. The reason I teach that belief system and put that in people's cores is because it solves so many issues. People are so much less afraid of rejection and failing now if they know there's still enough, even if they make a mistake and fail. And then there's a positive, the more we do anything, we learn, we grow, the more we do anything, the better we get, but we're already good enough now. And if others don't see our value, it doesn't mean we don't have value. It means they're blind and can't see it, but many do see our value. All of these things are, in there, people need it because we're given the opposite in Western society. And unfortunately, I like a lot of red pill truths, but then there are certain individuals within red pill communities that are teaching a lot of toxic stuff too. And so, I'm really about just helping the world. I'm not helping any, particular group, although I have, I presented on shows and been on shows with certain, red pill content creators. But we got to look at this other stuff too. And my show yesterday is like the red pill gurus really have half the picture at most, and then it's distorted what they have. But they do have some very useful truths. but we got to look at this stuff too. And the thing about I once dated a lady who was a Peace Corps worker and had spent extensive time in Africa, and they called a lot of these African villages the happy poor. They were poor, but they were happy. What we have here is, a lot more wealth, but
they were, to be clear, they were materially poor.
Yeah, they were materially
tremendously
poor,
wealthy in spirit.
Yeah. And listen, there are a lot of psychological issues in Africa. I mean, I'm not going to ignore that in Rwanda, there were 300,000 people killed. They had genocide. I mean, they actually have a lot of racism in certain parts of Africa where they're like, well, this black person with one type of nose is from one thing and another type of nose, and they kill each other, So I'm not saying it's all roses there, but they do have these villages of people who have a real sense of community and love each other, and they have happiness. And I lived in the Philippines for 2 years, and they have these, kind of towns or villages called barrios, and people, they have a sense of community, which is valuing each other, and they are just generally happier. If I had to choose, I'd rather be in a Western society because we do get all the material comforts, but also when you get your mindset straight, you really can have the best of both worlds. You have to be mindful in a Western culture. You have to reject, a lot of these belief systems, but it is possible to have a good inner world and then get all the material benefits of Western culture. That's actually mostly ideal, but if I was in the Philippines and I was grown and raised there, I would get a lot of the psychological benefits, but then I like having adequate healthcare, etc., material possessions, and be happy. I mean, that's the best of both worlds. And I don't need a Lamborghini though. I did like my Porsche when I had it, but who cares if I didn't have it?
So where does it come from? Where does the degradation of the normal in Western society come from?
Too much focus on the wrong things, man.
So 100 years ago in the U.S., there was a tremendously wealthy class of people. And they had, they call them the robber barons, the Carnegies, the Rockefellers, all that typical kind of stuff. They were the business leaders, and they just happened to get wealthy because they were heads of businesses and had ideas and stuff like that. Many people looked towards their wealth as something that they wanted to achieve, which is in and of itself not a bad thing. But they caused their children, by and large, to be wrapped up in the material wealth without the understanding of how much hard work it takes to get there. So now, 100 years later, we're at the point where it has for 5 generations been pounded in the heads of a large number of people that you're not somebody unless you have, this particular thing. Over time, that's going to cause a degradation of what's normal, because guess what? We're all trying to achieve that thing for free that takes a tremendous amount of work to get there. And that, along with now we have distractions. Could you imagine daycare? I mean, talk about ignoring your children. You get married, you have kids, and at 18 months old, you stick them in daycare. What's their subconscious makeup going to be? Because now they're dealing with people who, number one, they're abandoned by their parents. They're ignored by the people in the daycare because they got 35 kids to take care of. I mean, so on and so forth. All of these things play into that degradation, and the myth of normal is there is no normal because we're all struggling to try to get nowhere.
And honestly, I think the United States, there's certain parts of United States or other Western cultures that other countries could adopt that are beneficial. But when it comes to sense of community, when it comes to an overemphasis on materialism and how we look and all of that, unfortunately, it's just gotten way out of control, and it's causing a massive amount of problems. And just So many dysfunctional families, so many kids born out of wedlock and single parent homes, because people are so disconnected now, and because people don't stay together for the sake of the kids and work out their stuff. They just they
Right.
bail, and all these things that come with too much material comfort, used to having it easy, not sticking in when it gets hard, causes big problems. So we got a little bit left.
Jordan, you were going to say something?
Go ahead, Jordan.
I have a slightly different take. It's not completely different from what he's saying, but I don't like. I generally find I don't like it when people blame materialism for the fact that it's material. It's the issue of materialism. It's an internal issue, and assuming that it's wealth or materialism that causes problems, I don't think that that's correct. I think it reflects the issues that are going on in the internal world. So when we don't have connection, we blame, people are so focused on getting money or wealth. I like there's a book by Wall Steve Woggles, The Science of Getting Rich. Mm-hmm. He says in that book that to be closer. I'm not religious, but he uses the language of God. Like, to be closer to God is to be rich and to explore all the things that life has to offer. But I think he also means that it's with other people. To build yourself up, to have wealth, is to be with other people and also explore the material possessions of the world. So you have to have both. I think most people use materialism to cover the fact that they don't have connection. I think Ryan had it right when he said the ideal is both. Well,
so let me rephrase what I said.
We used to have more stable families. Why did we abandon
materialism? I think the better word is the love of materialism. You know how the Bible's often misquoted as saying money is the root of all evil. Not true. The love or covetousness of money is the root of all evil. Covetousness being a whole lot different than envious or jealous. Covetous means that you wish to take something from somebody, usually inflicting some harm upon them to get that thing. You want it so bad that you will do something evil to go get that. So I'm in the pursuit of wealth. I'm in the pursuit of material things, but I'm not in love with them.
Yeah.
So good point, Jordan. Good point.
I don't know if it's trying to decide how to respond to that. Like, I just think if you blame the thing, like, I think it's an overly simplistic argument to just for Gabor Mate to just say, people aren't even, I don't even know what he's really saying there. I don't know if I entirely agree with everything he's saying in this video. I don't like he's overgeneralizing, I think, too specific of an idea where he's like, people that don't produce or consume, it's like I don't even know what he means. I don't even think he knows what he means.
I think it's the overemphasis. He's talking about just the overemphasis on material things and abandoning other things that matter. Right. The overfocus. Honestly, I like making money. I like having nice things, but only to a point. Right. And I also, it's not just community. You have to have a proper inner world as an individual, and community is part of that. Community is especially important for developing children that then teaches those children to have a good inner world. But you have to have this relationship with yourself, and then be plugged into a good community. And it is important to a point to make money, and I think it's okay to want nice things, but we emphasize it so much that we abandon other things that are very important. Correct. And that's what he's talking about. The dissolving of valuing other people just for who they are, just letting them be who they are. He's talking about this schizophrenic that, hey, other people in the village are like, hey, we're gonna chant. You're saying crazy stuff. Let's chant along.
So, all right.
He's still a valued human being.
Yeah, I think it's a shift in priorities. That's the key.
Here's what I'll counter with.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
my business, my hypnosis business, brings me an incredible amount of value because I produce value for other people.
Yep.
I think that the pursuit of wealth is noble because it enriches the people around you, and in doing so, you enrich yourself. Ryan, you've told me, how many times have we gotten back testimonials from people that say, you've completely changed my life?
Oh yeah, all the time. That's our norm is changing people's lives in
right.
one or two.
But I believe businesses create value for other people. And in doing so, you can't help but enrich your own life. You talk to all these business people, who create value for other people. It is the most enriching experience. Many people who make millions in business could retire. You know what they end up doing? They keep creating more businesses because they are addicted to the feeling of bringing value and connection to other people through business. And I think that that experience in itself creates community. When you bring value to other people, you can't help but feel like you are part of a community.
I have no argument with that. I agree.
What?
I agree.
Yeah.
I think
100%.
I think as long as, if you want to be a businessman and make a lot of money and bring a lot of value to the world and you enjoy that, I think that's great. But just don't exclude all these other things that our society has excluded. And don't place the value of it. Don't equate the value of a human being to how much money they make and what they do, how good looking they are, what kind of car they drive. You are enough as you are. You have massive value just for who you are. Now, some people may say, oh, well, if you're already good enough, why would you do anything in the world? Why would you do anything? Just sit there and just be happy. And it's like, well, here's another thing. Just because you're good enough as you are doesn't mean you have what you want, and doesn't mean you want these things. You may want them to a healthy amount. One thing that's interesting is I cleared my internal world. I healed myself with self-hypnosis, etc. Within 2 years, my income doubled, and I wasn't even trying. And then after it's probably another 5, 6, 7 years after that. I back in 2019 got in a community of men, and I see them up leveling, and I thought I was doing great, and I was doing great, and I was happy. And I'm like, you know what? These guys are really kicking some of these guys are really kicking some ass. I think I could double my income again. And I just had this feeling that I could, and I actually tried, and then I did. It took me 2 years, and I hit over 300 grand. And not doing that now because I'm still doing fine. But I gave up my 200 grand a year job, average, 190, to do this full time, to change the world, to help people. And honestly, hey, things, Gabriel E, you mentioned MLD. Yeah, it's MLD's community. And, Modern Life Dating, his community helps guys up level. I talk to him all the time. So, I know he's had some flack this year, and he's been virally attacked, and some of it, he's attacked some other people, and it came back and bit him in the ass. Honestly, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but his community, he does love to help men, and a lot of men have been helped by that community, and I've been a part of that community. And but the one thing I would say is you have to love yourself for who you are. You're still going to want to go out and do cool stuff. We got to do something with our time, and once you are emotionally healthy, we're not just going to sit around kumbaya. That's boring. Let's go out and kick some ass. Once you believe your ability and value, you just go out and kick ass, and then you are productive, and you get everything else you want too. It's awesome, and your inner world is great. It's the best of all worlds. It's amazing.
Once you feel you are good enough internally and know it, and you combine that with belonging to a community that you admire and respect, whatever that is in the world, your ability to get what you want, because you're no longer hampered by procrastination, anxiety. That's why, Ryan, you made double the money, because you were sitting around wasting less time. Time is money. And if you're sitting around wasting it, playing video games, consuming porn, getting drunk,
or just anxiety,
whatever, right?
Trying to overcome anxiety and depression,
right? Or just commiserating in your head, that sucks up time you could be earning money. So just by clearing that, you get moving. Now, on the 4th, once you also belong once you feel safe and secure and you harbor very little resentment or rage or anger towards anybody or anything, you're sitting there in a pile of you. What are you going to do? Well, the question is, what do you want? Maybe you want 40 acres, 3 tractors, and 6 horses.
Go for it.
Eventually, you'll have that. And you know what? And you'll pay, well, now I'd like someone to share this with. So you find a partner, like a spouse or something. And then you have some children, you raise them, and it's all a good society. But you have to, like Ryan said, you got to do something with your 168 hours a week. You've got to, and if you're fully inner game equipped, you'll go find out what it is. I remember when I was 14 years old, talk about materialism, because my dad was a hardworking guy, had a gas station for a long time. Then he got into HVAC, and he was really good at that. But when I was about 14 years old, the kids had a Cadillac, and I rode in that Cadillac, and we had a Volkswagen bus, he had a van, and we had a little mini Toyota pickup truck, right, back in the 70s. And I thought, gee, and we were driving down the road. I said, hey, Dad, that Cadillac's a pretty nice car. He goes, it sure is. I said, why don't we have one? Because I don't know what's going on in the world, right? So he says, well, we could afford one, but I wouldn't know what to do with it, right? Because his mindset was working, fixing, building, making money, you know, and taking care of the 6 kids. That's why we had a Volkswagen bus. And we even had in 1978 a champagne edition Volkswagen bus. Oh, that was the coolest coolest Volkswagen bus ever. But the key was my dad was never focused on making billions. He was focused on being happy and productive and raising 6 kids, of which 6 have turned out pretty well, right? Everybody's got their issues. Everybody's got their desires. They're hooked up, whatever. But overall, it worked out pretty good for him. And I learned a lot then. And it didn't mean anything to me then because it was just a statement in my head. But years later, as I reflected upon that, I thought, yeah, cool. So I don't need to buy something to impress somebody else.
Exactly.
Buy something that I can use and I can appreciate.
Yeah, there you go. So we have some commenters here. U.S. education system sick, and there's
for sure on both of those.
I think there's a lot of similarity between the West and Rome. I think I think there are entitled people in the U.S. I also think there are extremely hardworking people in the U.S. Doing everything they can to get that bag so that they can show everyone how great they are, or just whatever. And there's even a few emotionally healthy people in the U.S., although that numbers has been dwindling. But Tim, your parents both, we had a Thanksgiving, 1 or 2 Thanksgiving dinners with them, and they just seem like grounded, emotionally healthy people.
They were. They are. Healthy.
Yeah.
My dad's passed now. My mom still around, 86 years old.
And you're like totally emotionally healthy, Yeah,
100, at least 97%.
But they did not overemphasize. Your parents did not overemphasize, but they didn't place number 1 priority material stuff. We need material stuff until we can survive and have security and, get the things we need. But if you place your value on that, that's a huge mistake. And that's the crux of the problem with Western society is we place our value. And this is what Dr. Mate said. We place our value on the stuff we do and what we have.
Right. Now, I'm going to comment on Spark 55 comment. I love it. I think it's more the belief of I'm not just my success. I'm still good even when I fail. Spark, and this, we're just repeating the same
Gabriel,
thing.
no one's completely objective.
If you've got Spark, if you've got a good inner game, you're going to fail. You know why? Because you're going to try. And amongst that failure, you're going to have success, but neither of those actions is a result of the thing, right? You are internally good enough.
Just to comment, Gabriel, yes, absolutely. Getting feedback from others is good if they are good, emotionally healthy people who have wisdom. So yeah, I can see there's absolutely value in it, but also when toxic people give me feedback, I'm just gonna throw it out the window. I'm like, but the thing is I'm 49. You're how old are you now, Tim?
I'm 62.
So we've had some time to kind of filter the good and bad and get life experience, and with life experience, you kind of understand what matters and what doesn't more. Some of that just, takes, unless you're lucky enough to have parents and other people who reinforce that early on.
I'll say this. It's not, if you have a bad inner world, pursuing more and more things to fill that void isn't going to fill it. But if you have a positive inner world, pursuing wealth amplifies what's inside of you. You can experience more of what the world has to offer. You can give more to causes and people that you care about. You can protect your family with that material wealth. Wealth, I think, just amplifies what's already inside of you.
I love that. I love that.
Good or bad, amplifies.
Jordan, 100%, man. I have said for years, because people go, I want to win the lottery, blah, blah, blah. And your statement there, all wealth does is magnify your character, period. 100%.
I've seen people become multimillionaires and their alcoholism was amplified. Yeah, literally. I'm not kidding.
It just magnifies, just like Jordan said, it just magnifies whatever's on the inside. It just makes it bigger and more well-known.
Yeah. So if you have a healthy inner world, you can then, if you have attain wealth and you have a healthy inner world, you will use that to help others. You will inevitably use that to help others.
100%. I love it.
Now for our audience, by the way, my career the last 20 years, that I gave it up about 90%. I have people coming to me saying, hey, I'll pay you $8,000 to do this, or I'll pay you, for 30 hours of work. And it's like, so I'm still taking some of these juicy projects because, like, dude, anyways. And I do like making money, but my average client in my last business for 20 years, average net worth 1 to 10 million. And I have 5 worth over 100 million. So I know the whole wealthy millionaire. I'm not against being a millionaire. I think it'd be great for me to be a millionaire, which would empower me to change the world. Me personally, 150, 200,000 a year, I can get anything that I want. I mean, I don't really care about I like nice cars, but a Bugatti, it's like, I don't know, man. Who cares?
I think it's two things. It's freedom and autonomy. Yes. When you allow your wealth to give you those two things and you have a healthy inner world, that is what ultimately makes you the most fulfilled, happy, satisfied person. Freedom, autonomy, and a healthy inner world. You will have an amazing life.
You got it, Jordan. And you know what? At your age, I'm glad you got it that early.
Gabriel, it depends on the millionaire, just for Gabriel's comment. Yep. I've met very toxic millionaires, and I'm a business partner right now with a guy worth over 100 million. I know this crowd. I'm also a business partner with someone worth almost 10 and another worth over 10 million. I mean, I literally talk to them all the time, and some of them are great.
They're
I'd say the majority of them are actually pretty good people, but then there are some that are super toxic.
Yeah, they're regular people, just like you and me. They just have wealth, so their focus is a little different.
Yeah. I've met some incredibly toxic. So it depends on the person, neglecting your potential how, because, I mean, the thing I don't like about the red pill is there's too much emphasis on, I've literally heard on Fresh and Fit, Myron say, hey, if you're making 6 figures, that's not nearly enough. and to get a girl and all this and the other.
Oh,
12% at that point, and you can live just fine on that. Yeah, if you get sucked into this, you need this, you need the Lambo, you need all to have value. I mean, it's just straight up bullshit. There's too much emphasis on it.
So
you will get, if you have a Lamborghini, you'll get a lot of hot girls, and they're going to be toxic, and they're probably going to mess up your life. So, I mean, anyways, go ahead.
So I was watching. So one of my favorite YouTube channels out there, and I've got probably a dozen or two, is Soft White Underbelly. Because this guy named Mark Leda interviews these people that you never get to know, and he has really, really transparent conversations with them. But one of my favorite characters that he has on that show, or favorite people, are the Whitakers. The Whitakers are an inbred family in southern West Virginia. And you would think that's pretty bad. And, generally it is. There's even guys that done YouTube videos on the family tree of the Whitakers, and it's pretty intermixed. But I was watching it this morning. I got a new show. It's called The Whitakers Go to the State Fair. And the interesting thing about this family is, I was watching this morning, I never noticed before, is they have a tremendous high level of community, acceptance, and love amongst them. And it's only a group of 10 or 12 people they'll come in and out. But it was amazing to me, and I'll use happy in a very weird way, but it was amazing to me how happy or maybe content they were.
Yeah.
And they have literally nothing.
They value each other for each other, not for
That's
what
right.
they got.
And there's some mental issues there as far as mental capacity and maybe some retardation or something like that. But they're all accepting, loving, wonderful, warm people. And these are the people that you would look down upon if you walked past them in the street, because you would think they were less than you. But
yeah,
I think overall they're pretty well for having nothing.
That's about 80% of people in the Philippines right there.
Yes.
I looked up the 75-day hard challenge. I was going to respond to the comment. Why do I feel I'm getting deja vu? Have we talked about this before?
I've never heard of it.
Hard
day challenge.
75 hard day challenge. Is Ryan, do you see that comment?
Yeah, I see it. I'll put it up.
I looked it up real quick. It says, choose a diet and follow it. Complete 2 45-minute workouts daily. Drink a gallon of water every day. Read 10 pages of nonfiction. Take progress photos.
Okay, go for it. Yeah, you probably would. I'm not against becoming a multimillionaire. Go for it. I'm heading in that direction.
A 245. I don't have any strong. I mean, it seems. Those things kind of seem arbitrary to me.
It's a prescription,
it is, and it's not going to help your inner world. It'll help your outer world. Okay.
A gallon of water for most people is too much every day.
Yeah, I was going to say that seems a little much. Just drink when you're
thirsty.
Thirsty.
Have heard in ounces, 75% of your body weight.
Yeah, that might be a little.
And I don't even know what rule of thumb that is. I just heard it somewhere.
Again, but I think what Ryan said was important. It's like people are trying to do this is another example. Wealth is one of them, trying to do physical things to change their internal world.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
No.
It might give you some relief, but it's not a temporary fix. Or sorry, it is a temporary fix.
It's not long term, for sure.
Right. It might make you feel, of course, working out makes you feel better. It always does that. It can't help but do that. But you're not changing when you don't change the subconscious programs, you can become as physically fit as you can possibly be, have the best diet, and you're not going to make a dent in your subconscious mind.
Yeah.
So,
very, very good. And so here's the real crux of it. You want to get money? Great. You want to have a nice place or get a 6-pack abs, 300-pound bench press, 10% body fat, whatever. Great. Go for it. I think that's awesome. But don't think all of those things are going to give you a good inner world. Do not exclude your inner world. Do not exclude the things that make us happy, because maybe that's 10% of it. You know, you get a little satisfaction. If, you know, I know people who have a really, you know, a lot of inner trauma. They get all these things. They're absolutely miserable. Absolutely miserable. I know people I knew one guy made $8 million a year. Miserable. And he's like, oh, I've had everything. I had the M5, I had the Dodge Viper, you know, I had, you know, Mercedes SL 60 something AMG, and
consume.
And dude, he's an a-hole and he's miserable, you know, and so the biggest problem with our society, one of the biggest problems, not the only one, is we think doing all this is going to make us happy, and it freaking doesn't. So Gabor is talking about the things that actually help people be happy, fulfilled, satisfied. I like, you know, for me, yeah, I mean, around, you know, I like making very above average money. You know, it's cool, but it's not my core. And you know what? If next year I only made $50,000, I'll be okay. You know, you got to do the work on your inner world, and all this outer world stuff does not fix that. It just doesn't. It has its place. Go for it. If it's what you want, go for it, because I'm all about, let's do challenging stuff and learn and grow in the process. And then, hey, you know, like I said, I had a 911 turbo and it was fun. It didn't make me feel better about myself, but it was cool. You know, just don't confuse that with making you happy, because you know, it just doesn't.
I'm curious what you guys think about this too. Is like, I don't know. I think that it's better to develop strong, like, life habits rather than doing these contained challenges or 30-day challenge or 1 week challenge. I find that I guess they're fine, but like, the things that matter are the things you do every single day. Orient your habits so that every day you have healthy behaviors.
So let's talk about that. You're on the money, Jordan. The binge, you know, the binge activity, if you will, 75 days, 45 days, whatever it happens to be. You're trying to correct something you don't like about yourself with a very cognitive activity. What happens after 75 days? What do you do on day 76?
And what do you expect to gain from that?
Yeah, so Jordan's right. Figure out your inner world, get that square, and then guess what? You'll start developing habits that benefit you, and you don't have to do the crazy things.
And I guess I'll play devil's advocate to myself and say, you know what? If you want to start a new habit and you want to mentally block out, okay, to start with, I'm going to do this, and then, like, if you got a plan, but it has to extend out. Like, the focus is building a healthy habit. If you're trying to do a workout program and, you know, P90X, 90 days, right? Although I think it's longer than 90. No, that's fine. But what they also include in the program, which I like, whether or not you like P90X, that's not the point. The point is that it's like, okay, what do you do after? Well, you can do it again. You can do this for, like, there's a continuous, like, because they're trying to help. Really, all those programs are doing is trying to help you build healthy habits. And so if you're the type of person that's like, all right, I can stick to something better if I've got it in my mind that, okay, I'm doing this for 75 days. Because I imagine if you do something for 75 days, you will probably stick with some of those habits. It's not like you'll drop off the moment.
Well, you may. It just depends. It's like people diet really hard and then, and then they eat fattening food again. You know,
that is possible. Absolutely possible.
Yeah.
So,
I'll comment on this. MLD. Yeah, I mean, MLD really does want to help men. John MLD is one of the things I like about him is he is open about the things he needs to improve on. He's been willing to go in and do a lot of self-improvement, and he's open about having a very abusive childhood. And I did sessions for him. He's been open about that, and it changed his life. And he used to have poverty mindset, and I removed that. And then his income tripled, and then the next year it tripled again. And it's just putting self-belief, and he's a lot less angry now. I mean, sometimes, people say, oh, he can still lash out at people, etc. He does it a lot less, but I think a lot of the viral attacks against him now this year was from stuff he said when he wasn't as recovered, from prior years. It came back and kind of bit him in the butt to a point, but he's done some other stuff, but he has gotten his inner world a lot better. And because of that, you look at his videos from 3-4 years ago, he's way less angry now. He is much more grounded, and he's happier, and he's more successful. It's still a work in progress, but what we do is very powerful, and that's an example. I mean, you go on my my old business website, pfshield.com, pfshield.com. I got videos of me from 15 years ago before I cleared my trauma, and I have this weak energy that I'm the reason Tim became a hypnotherapist is because Tim used to work with me a long time ago, and then he hadn't seen me for several years, and he's like, oh, I'm in town, we had lunch, and he's like, what the hell is different with you, Ryan? Your energy is completely different. You're way better now. And so Tim was like, dude, I want some of this. I told him what I was doing. He's like, I got to do that. Look at the change in Ryan, So this stuff is massive. And yeah, it massively did help MLD. It's massively helped hundreds and hundreds of people. And now Tim does it. Now Jordan does it. And they're massively helping others. Also Gary, I've actually had, including Tim, who never did a session with me, although your wife did. I've had 6 of my clients, and plus Tim, 7 people become certified hypnotists because they did a session with me, or Tim just noticed a difference in me and was like, damn, and I've been doing this for others for about 4.5 years. I mean, do you know anyone else? Have you heard of a therapist who's like, yeah, just in the last 4 years, 7 of my clients started doing it professionally in some capacity.
By the way, what are those 7?
This is new. We got the nuclear powered stuff here. We got nuclear powered stuff. And really, John MLD is a great example of that because he has massively improved his life. And he's helping men, So I have good things overall to say about John MLD. He's a good guy. And
I think Brent is lurking in the background. Brent, way back about a half hour ago, said, hey, guys, and I think we missed him. So, hey, Brent, we miss you.
Brent, what's going on? Yeah, Brent, he's another guy. I was able to help. What I did is I fixed myself. And when I found these techniques, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so powerful. So then I started helping others. Brent's another example. He has an interview on the video section of my YouTube channel, changed his life, And now he does hypnotism. He comes on the show every now and then. And, there's people he's helped. There was a girl, he cured her anorexia. I mean, he's using my methods, to be fair, but he cured her anorexia. I didn't do it. He did it. He showed her what to do, and she is, one session, her anorexia gone forever.
And let's be clear.
Can learn this.
Let's be clear. She did it.
Yeah, she did it, but he showed her how. He gave her the knowledge, she did the work.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we do that all the time. And the reason we get massive benefit for people is we understand these things that Gabor Mate is talking about, but we know how to get it in your core, and it changes everything. It changes everything. You don't need any of this outer crap to be happy. In fact, it doesn't make you happy. You go inside, you fix that. And then now you can get the friends all my friends are super high quality. My friends are great. I used to have friends who were negative and crappy and put me, I got rid of them. Because, once you learn how to value yourself internally, you're like, you know what? I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this guy who keeps on putting me down. So to hell with him. When you feel you're not good enough, you'll tolerate it because it's a match. But once you feel, man, I do have value, you get rid of those people, and then good people just fill the vacuum.
So let's be real. Once you get that inner game squared away, you now construct what's called an inner frame. Yeah. And when those people don't fit in your frame, they're on. Move away. Go away. You're not helping me. You're just trying to beat me down. And just like Ryan found, those people no longer fit in his frame because he wasn't willing to put up with that abuse. So
Now I have
sayonara,
great
I'm going
friends,
to go find
amazing
people
friends.
who don't abuse me.
Yeah, and I
And
have
you'll
amazing friends now.
you'll notice that everywhere. Self-esteem tends to seek its own value.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Notice
sir.
where, like, just everyone who's watching this, go out and just observe who you're friends with, who other people are friends with. It's very self-esteem is like, it's like a balancing element where it always seeks its own value. It's like, I'm an engineer, so I think in terms of a system, it's like it's an unstable system when somebody's really high in self-esteem and really low. That doesn't
they don't
tend to
stick around
last because
they're not a match.
right.
And what I like about what you just said, Jordan, is that if those friends around you are not always building you up and challenging you, and I'm not talking blowing fluff up your skirt and making you feel good. I'm talking about really challenging you to do great things and move on and be your true friend.
Well, encourage.
They don't belong in your frame.
Yeah.
And
if you have crappy friends, that is a sure sign. If you have crappy friends and you stick with them, that is a sure sign you need to work on yourself.
And I would argue that it happens without even really paying attention to it. Like when you improve your inner world, like I've had friends that they just kind of fall out of my life. It's not even that I kick them out. It's like they just kind of naturally
they just go away.
Leave. Yeah, they just kind of disappear.
They can't stand to be around greatness.
Right. Right.
In the religious world, the Christians are always talking about going and standing on the right hand of God and stuff like that, right?
John?
Yeah, the reality is that the glory of God will be so great and so intense that if you can't measure up to that in some way, you won't be able to be near it.
Yeah.
It's the same way. There's another parable talking about scriptures about building your house upon the sand and building your house upon the rock. Okay. Having a troubled internal game, subconscious trauma, etc., is building your house upon the sand.
Yep.
If you are solid with your inner game and you've got a solid frame constructed, you're now building your house upon the rocks. And by the way, MLD, you can use that in your sermon on Monday morning.
John MLD in the house. Welcome, John.
Hey, Brent, I'm glad you're fixing that timing belt. Needs it.
Gabriel, get my ebook, intermastering.com/free ebook. Book a session. You can learn more about that there.
Yep. Just reach out, Gabriel. That's all you got to do.
Absolutely.
Yep. Right there under my face.
That's
let's finish the rest of this clip. We're about an hour in. We got a minute left on this clip. Is anything left to comment? And then we'll wrap it up. But let's go back to this here. Let's see here. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing.
Hey, that's cool, man.
All right, we'll do this one. That's cool. Well, then you guys aren't in it, but I'm fine with that. Right. I'm just kidding. All right.
The recognizing that and the striving for it is what I call spirituality. The paths are many. Some find it through religion. Sometimes religion is an obstacle to that. In fact, often it is. But it may be a conduit to it as well, depending on who and how and where. It's what people are seeking. Many other paths that are not religious, but fundamentally, there's this spiritual nature that if we ignore, we're actually ignoring an essential part of ourselves.
Bingo.
Yeah, ignoring an essential part of ourselves. That's the thing.
Inner game construction is 100% spiritual.
And I think really the takeaway today is, hey, you want to chase money and nice things, great, but ignore your inner world at your peril. And Western society has ignored the inner world. They've ignored having good connections with others, but also within themselves. And it has led to, excuse me, it's led to a massive cancer and massive dysfunction in our society. Don't be like that. Work on your inner world so you don't end up, excuse me, like our society that has a cancer in it. You got to focus on your inner world. You got to focus on what it takes to actually be happy and connected, and material stuff does not give you that. I'm not saying don't go after that, but don't exclusively go after that. That's a huge mistake. And that's all I had. Anything from you guys?
I'm good, man. Good show.
All right. Anything, Jordan?
No, that's it.
I learned so much from Jordan today, man. My goodness.
Yeah, once you get this foundation, once you get your inner world foundation, everything improves. Money improves, relationships improve, your overall confidence improves. You hold frame better. You know, I'm really big on frame. You know, John MLD in the house, Money Muscles Game Frame. Frame is extremely important, and you have to have a strong inner world to correctly do it, bar none. That's just how it is. So,
by the way, there's 14 people watching right now. I think that's the biggest crowd ever on a live show.
Yeah, it got up to 15, 16 at one point.
Nice.
So thanks for tuning in, guys.
Appreciate
you. And you guys can do this. We got resources for you. I'll let you know in the future, but I'm going to be offering free content on my school community that you can join for free and actually do self-hypnosis, heal yourself. You know, some of it at least will be free, where you can actually heal yourself.
And Tim and I will be in that community too. Ryan's pulled all in the hip.
We just barely set it up, but we're building it. So, once you do this, once you heal your internal world, you're going to know something that we learned, which is that you have more. Hi, there's some new people. Isopropy, Jesper. Thanks, guys.
Mindset. Seffi. Sefi.
You guys fix your inner world or start working on it. You're going to learn what we've learned. You have more power than you know. That's our show. Thank you.